And for more, we speak now with international criminal lawyer William Julié. Thanks for being with us here on France 24.
Hi.
Your reaction to this verdict: Nicolas Sarkozy cleared on 3 of 4 charges, convicted of complicity in the scheme to funnel millions for his 2007 winning run for president. And this was the shock, not the conviction, but the sentence. 5 years, and possibly starting October 13th, he'll be serving immediately.
That's it. He has been sentenced for one of the counts, which is the Criminal Association, Association malfaiteurs. This is a very specific offence which enables the prosecution and the courts to go after people and sentence individuals who have not been proven having committed specific other offences. It enables to go after the fact that you are gathering with other people to attempt, to try to commit other offences.
In other words, we couldn't find the money in your accounts that proved that it came from the Libyans, but we did find proof that you were complicit.
Yes.
Does that hold up?
That is what, legally it does, absolutely. And this is what I understand the judge explained, which is we do not consider we have sufficient evidence showing that the money that we know came out from Libya, because she considered that they have proof of that, but that they do not have proof that it went to him. So the illegal financing of his campaign was set aside, and that was a not guilty verdict. And the taking out of the money from the Libyan state funds, etc., was also taken out for him, but was retained the fact that he had meetings and that there was sufficient evidence that a pact had been agreed upon, and this pact was money against favours on various topics, and that was enough because it was him with other people abroad and here also in France.
Is that the difference?
And that is enough to retain this criminal association, knowing that...
Is that the difference with the case that where former President Chirac was convicted was a kickback scheme involving City Hall in Paris? The other cases against Nicolas Sarkozy, is it because this is an affair of state involving not just France, but a foreign country, one that was later attacked by a NATO-led coalition? Is that what makes this case different?
It makes it different because it's an international case. It's a cross-border case, but I mean there are dozens of cross-border cases ongoing. Very often, corruption matters in the world which is ours, which is open, and in international, in relation between states and companies, etc. And we know that corruption cases are very often cross-border cases. So this alone does not make exceptional. I think it's the fact that there's the addition that Nicolas Sarkozy became president because the wrongdoings the court has just sentenced him for were not committed when he was president. It was before. But then he became president, and now we're saying it's the first time, which is true, that a former president will go to jail because Chirac, as you rightly said, had been convicted, 2 years suspended, prison term, so suspended, but it was a prison conviction. And that did not go anywhere because President Chirac died before he could serve his sentence. And so
political reactions to this running the gamut from those who approve and hail the fact that magistrates have upheld the independence of the judiciary in France, to that of Marine Le Pen, the front-runner for president in 2027, currently appealing the fact that she's barred from running after the National Rally leader's conviction for embezzlement of EU Parliament funds. She put out this tweet where she says that the fact that he's going directly to jail a cancellation of a double degree of jurisdiction, and it undermines the great principles of our law, starting with the presumption of innocence. Being sent to jail before the appeal is heard, that undermines the presumption of innocence or not, William Julié?
It does, but it's in the law. So if you're not happy with the provisions of the French law, you need to change them. It does, of course. Anyone who is sent to prison, sentenced, without this sentence being final, is somehow an attack on the presumption of innocence. But this is how our system functions. And on the other side, it is difficult to claim that no one could ever be sent to prison pre-trial or between first instance and appeal if someone is, for example, extremely dangerous. Any rule of law country needs to have a judicial legal system enabling, in certain cases, that someone is sent to prison before the final decision is rendered, sometimes 3, 4, 5 years after a crime supposedly has been committed.
But
so all these
Nicolas
declarations
Sarkozy,
are more...
Is he a dangerous man, a 70-year-old man?
We're entering another. That my example was not about Nicolas Sarkozy, but then there are also other criteria in the French legal system and provisions. Might not want to get into this, it might be too technical, but judges can explain why they consider that it is needed to send someone to prison. Then I do hear the point that in some cases it's unprecedented, and Marine Le Pen explained that, for example, there was no precedent of, in cases looking like hers, someone could not run for an upcoming election, not in 5 years, but coming quickly, and that she was deprived of that because of this decision that was made by judges and that she considers is an infringement to her political right to run, which on the face of it is true. But this is all about what is in the law and what are the tools that judges can use.
A law that she helped pass, by the way.
But then judges remain judges. I believe in the independence of sitting judges in my country. I know that this is
okay,
not...
let me ask you a question, William Julié, because there was no delay. Nicolas Sarkozy will go October 13th to hear if he goes to jail immediately or a later time. There was no delayed sentencing for one of the bagmen in this case. We're talking about Franco-Algerian middleman Alexandre Jury.
I think he was incarcerated in court.
Yes.
Yes, he didn't even get a delay. But then other ones...
He didn't get a delay.
Other ones got a sentence that you cannot avoid going to prison in regards to.
So why is...
But they did not get a mandat de dépôt. They were not incarcerated at all. And that is the case of Claude Guéant because of his age. So, but all these are provisions that exist in the law. Then the question is, how does the judge pick one or another, depending on whom these are going to be applied against? So that's...
Claude Guéant, you mentioned former government minister, yes. So someone from on high.
He got 6 years without mandat de dépôt. If he appeals, it's suspended.
All right. Alexandre...
So it's a question of,
Alexandre Jury is a man who made his living as kind of a middleman for deals. So he's not as high on the pecking order. Is that why he's going straight to jail?
Listen, I would not comment on why exactly one was requested to go now or not. I think that Alexandre Jury was considered to have a role which was, as you said, middle, but possibly instrumental enough to deserve such a harsh sentence. Then why did they consider that he could not have a couple of weeks to organize his presentation to the prison? Did they consider that he was possibly at flight risk? Maybe they did not consider that Sarkozy would have flight risk. This is another criterion that exists in French law, which is if you think that there's a risk of someone escaping, then possibly you want to stop that. So you grab someone in court.
William Julié, there's cases aplenty of former presidents who stand trial. Peru can tell us something about that. Currently, Brazil's former president, Jair Bolsonaro. Let me ask you.
Many countries of the world.
Is there, and I'm asking for for a democracy on the other side of the Atlantic. Is there a case to be made that former presidents, because they embody the state, should have some kind of a special status after they leave office?
It's a huge question. Then it is complicated to consider that because you have been president at one moment in your life, that no one can go after you for acts that you possibly have committed when you were not president. The question of immunity is very clear under French law. For the time you are in office, then no one can go after you, and that is a rule that is very clear. Then your question is more complex because it's about what happened before and afterwards, and I can't imagine that you...
Do you like the French law?
Listen, I do. I mean, no law is perfect, but I mean, we are in a rule of law country, and
when you return to being a private citizen, that's what you are.
Listen, I know enough about so many other places where the rule of law is way more in danger than in France. Obviously, nothing is perfect. And I understand that, as I was going to conclude on that, on this discussion about independence of judges. Judges, I believe, prosecution is a different discussion, but sitting judges, I believe, are independent. They're not taking instructions from the government. This happens everywhere in the world, in so many countries of the world. We know it's true. I don't think this happens in my country, in France, and it doesn't happen in many other democracies. So that already is good. It's way better than in these countries where it happens. But this being said, being independent does not mean that you not have your ideology, your agenda as a professional, and that you do not push for the strength of your corporation, which I understand. And you don't go the way where some other people would like you to go. And this is also the strength of a democracy, which is that there are clashes and judges have their word to say when it comes to what they consider is the protection of the French society.
Nicolas,
sometimes people don't agree, they appeal. And when it doesn't work, they make statements in the press.
Nicolas Sarkozy, who had a particularly fractious relationship with magistrates when he was in office.
So that is maybe something also he's paying for now.
William Julié, I want to thank you so much for being with us.